Okay, so today I'm just going to be going over a drawing in my sketchbook, a series of drawings in my sketchbook even. So to start out, I'm just doing some warm-ups. I draw a bunch of boxes and try and fill them with landscapes or abstract compositions using different pencil crayons. Just to try and defocus my eyes and get my brain all warmed up. I actually shot it slightly out of focus, so we're just gonna zoom past this. Yeah, it's a really good warm-up exercise to start thinking about form or color and how it's related. So often I'll draw like a rock type form or just a middle ground form, and then use another color to punch it out of the negative space. As you can kind of see what I'm doing here. Yeah, with pencil crayons, there's a big variation, especially if you don't buy them new. If you're just using an old box of pencil crayons that you found, there's often a variation between the intensity of the chroma of each color. So usually ones that are more yellow will be less strong. So it's just something to be aware of when working with pencil crayons, because if you're just using 3 or 4 colors, you want to make your choices ones that will work together and not just be dominated by one color. Like if you're using a red, you might want to bring in some other darks, like maybe some purples, moving analogously. Or you could bring in a complementary, but just make sure that it's a strong enough complementary that it doesn't get all washed out looking. So the top left is a good example of, now that I've just covered it with my hand, a good example of using the negative space to really highlight the form of what you've drawn. I just drew some mush, basically. It's just a shape with some negative space cut out of it in the form of those little holes. And then using a background color to increase the contrast. This one is an attempt to do more of a landscape shape. I think it's a little house, if I remember correctly. Yeah, and often I'll bounce around from different one to one if I have an idea, or if I take a second look at it and think, oh, it needs more contrast in the left corner or whatever. I think at this point I was thinking it was a bit too monochromatic, that top right one. So I came in with some green and some yellow on top of the green. And that's the other thing about colored pencils is you can layer them because they're not completely opaque. because they're, I guess, a type of wax. You can layer a yellow over a blue and kind of make it green. So, you know, you can use your knowledge of color theory as a weapon to sharpen the edge of your drawing. But often it works better using a lighter, more transparent color like a yellow over a darker color. Although not always. Again, it depends. And you don't always have to use Prismacolor or very expensive colored pencils. I often, like I said, most of these pencils actually have some child's name on them. I think they're from my childhood home. So often I'll just make a shape and fill that with a face. This is a really good exercise to kind of help you get over any issues you have with like spatial awareness and like perspective and drawing faces in perspective. Because if you're just drawing like a rectangle that's kind of got a little bit of perspective on it, it's much easier to just kind of think in these abstract forms than to actually be like, oh, what is my perspective here? You know, you're just kind of looking for it to look right and not really overthinking it too much. Another classic move that I do is I'll usually start with the brow and then move into the dip or just below the brow ridge, and then draw the nose and then the rest of the lower half of the face in profile. And this is really because this gives us the strongest silhouette rather than something more straight on like the last little face. You know, it defines the nose, it defines the mouth, it defines the chin, it defines the neck sometimes. And then often, if I'm using a colored pencil, I'll just do lines on top. And this kind of acts as almost like value. I mean, we don't really have a true... I mean, if we press really hard, we can kind of give it a little bit of value, but... yeah, it just gives it a sense of light and shadow as if you were working with like charcoal or any other kind of like drawing medium. Man, I really made the noggin big on that guy. Artistic choice, I assume. And again, I'm coming in and strengthening the silhouette, I think, by filling in the space all around so that you're getting a contrast between the negative space and the face. And then sometimes you can kind of have some lost edges in there. If you've done lines over the face to give a sense of value, you can really pick and choose which lines and which aspects of the silhouette you want to like fade into shadow. So yeah, it's a pretty powerful tool. Another strategy I'll have to do is I'll draw the curve of the back like that, and then bring that into the shoulder, and which will give us kind of the direction and position of the arm, and then you can kind of draw the muscles that support the scapula. And then that kind of gives you the rib cage. It's just kind of a nice shorthand way. I mean, yeah. Weird habit of mine is to do this without drawing the head. No, I think it has kind of a spooky look to it. Oh. And yeah, here I am drawing a limb. And yeah, when I draw a limb, I'll often just draw almost like a tube, but then round the edge. And that will give me kind of the knee, and then I'll be like, oh, well, the knee is in a position where the rest of the leg is under itself. And then that kind of gives me the foot, and then, I'm away with it. But yeah, thinking in graphic shapes can be really helpful when drawing anatomy, and not to break out of the kind of Bridgman, Loomis, I must draw a circle and then draw the face, and then, like, if you just think in shapes, it'll be a lot more interesting than if you're trying to be 100% accurate, in my opinion, anyway. It's funny, as I've drawn more and more over the years, my eyes have gotten more and more simplified, where I'm often just doing like a dash for the eyes, and then I'll do 2 dashes for the nostrils, and then maybe some tone or something. Yeah, don't overthink it, Here's another head shape. Although, don't be like me and actually sharpen your pencils properly when you use them. It's a good practice. Yeah, just putting in the shadow of the nose and the shadow of the mouth. Stuff like that can really help give it form. Big foreheads today in this sketchbook page. Real chrome dome hours. And if you're a sketchbook like I am, sketchbook aficionado, don't be afraid to, just overlap some drawings. Who cares? Who's going to see this? Yeah, I think that's honestly the number one piece of advice I would give myself. Don't be afraid to, get messy. Who cares? I think often a lot of things that stop us from improving at art and drawing is the fear of messing up a different drawing, or I don't want to fix this mistake because I'm not sure if I know how to fix it. Oh, so I'm just coming in with another color, kind of getting some nice color, little color theory action, little pop of color. Yeah, when I do these pages, I'm really trying to get dynamic movement of line, something I'm always kind of striving to be better at. My tendency personally is to draw things in profile and very rigid. So sometimes it just helps to do like the lines pretty fast when you're starting a drawing, and that kind of just gives you that looseness, that energy, and unpredictability, because you're making lines and you're making things that you might consider mistakes, but will actually give your drawing a little bit more interest and maybe lead you in a direction that you hadn't really thought of to go by on your own. It's very iconic hair for me to draw. Hair is definitely an area it's work in progress, let's just say. This is a pretty questionable choice I made. Decided I wanted this guy to be green, and as you'll see in a minute, I think I end up going with a different green because this one looks a little... Like I said, some pencil crayons are not as strong and as vibrant, so this was getting a little muddy. The values, or the contrast between the two, the light pink and the green, wasn't strong enough, and so it was kind of just becoming this kind of muddled, hard to read mess. There we go. Now I'm sharpening stuff. Horrible sound. Yeah, here I am coming in with a darker green. I think it helps. Yeah, and I'm just bringing in some purple into the shadows of this guy's face. Really moving analogously mostly. Like I'm going from a pink, which is kind of, its root is in red, to a purple, kind of a mauve. And there's also an orange, which is on the other side of red / pink. So really the only color that's super far away on the color wheel is the green. Another little trick is to, instead of thinking about adding tone or color to your work surface, think about it as carving out these spaces of the white of the paper. And you can use this to mimic things like exposure. If there's a really strong light on a subject, often it'll be almost white or very desaturated and very high value, because the light is blasting away. Your eye can't really read the color. So using the white of the paper, whether that be in pencil crayon or in watercolor or gouache or whatever, even oil, I mean, it's a little more tricky. It's just like a really good tool to help you design something in a way that makes sense, in a way that feels like it has volume. I think I'm bringing the purple into the shadow and the green. So purple and green, those work pretty well together. Not quite a complement, but kind of. Bring in some more orange. There's so many pencil crayons just like clattering around in this video. Probably not going to use this box next time. Right, so in this drawing, I drew the arms first, just using like the outline of where the arms and the shoulders would be and where that would meet the chest. And that just gives me the whole perspective of where this figure is in space and where the legs are. Yeah, so I ended up doing kind of a twisting motion and attaching it to those legs. Now, the legs are a little, those thighs are pretty long, but, where it's stylized, As long as you're aware of the looseness you're taking with anatomy, and as long as you can control those to a degree, I think you're okay. This is another trick I do a lot, is to do like a weird shape that couldn't really fit a whole face onto, and then just draw the face into that with the forms and a sense and some shading to give it value. Often creates like a really dynamic feeling, because it's like a sense of, the rest of the figure is, visible through this like almost like a keyhole or something. I like how sharp I made that chin, or not chin, whatever. I think I was thinking I had drawn too many heads. So I was like, I gotta draw a hand here. Not our finest hand. I think the pink pencil crayon is a really nice one to draw with, because it kind of captures that element of skin. Especially when combined with like the white of the paper or another color, you can really kind of get a sense of warm and cold, which kind of just adds a whole dimension to your drawing that if it was in black and white, it would feel not as lively. Can't really remember what I'm doing here. I think it must be another little face of a little shard of a face. Alright, page 2. Alright. I would recommend if you're going to draw with one of these tiny, tiny little bits of pencil crayon that you get an extender. You just won't have as much control. This is not a good, not being a role model. Oh, I remember being very not thrilled with this one. So yeah, another face and profile, using the pencil crayon to pop the negative space out there. Yeah, I think I tried to draw hair and kind of an onion head kind of thing happening. The eye kind of got a little weird. Very weak chin on this figure. And that ear is a little... Usually the ear will line up with the eye. So the fact that it's way out there... Some liberties were taken. Kind of looks like the torch from the Statue of Liberty. Just sit here and like roast my own drawings. Again, coming in with the purple, darken some of the lines, kind of make things more readable. Contrast. Oh, this drawing's pretty good. I thought this one was pretty decent. Again, drawing the shoulder and the curve of the rib cage. Those really give us the placement of everything. This one reminds me of I think there's like a Goya painting of the giant going over the hilltop. It's very spooky. I think it's one of his like black paintings. Another good tip is if you're just starting out, try drawing with just straight lines. Like if you look at the way I've drawn the back of the arm there's not a lot of curving lines. Like there are curving lines that connect straight lines. It just helps give things a little bit more form. And coming in with the yellow, kind of gives it a little pop of color there. And the face is turned away, so you don't really see the rest of the body or the arm. Yeesh. So loud. It's funny, it's been long enough that I don't really remember what I drew. And I was like, is this going to be a face? Is this going to be a figure? The excitement. Sometimes it really helps to emphasize the tilt between the hips and the spine. So the spine is often tilted back, the upper part of the spine that has the rib cage, and they're kind of tilted like almost like an open book, where they're have a very like wide open angle, but there's still like a slight corner there. And that can just be really helpful to kind of be like, oh, here's where the pelvis is, here's where the ribs start. So I have to emphasize that more than it would be in real life. Man, I drew this head so small. Oh my god. Little baby head. Oh. Okay, I think I fixed it. Another tip is to draw the hands bigger than you think that they should be. Because drawing them bigger will look a lot more natural than drawing them too small. And I think it goes the same for the feet, although maybe not so much for the feet. It's quite a funky body this guy has. Trying to fix that dang onion head. Oh, here's another face shard. Face shape. Whatever you want to call it. So yeah, drawing the nose or the mouth will often give you the perspective for the rest of the face. Because you don't want them to have different perspectives. This is fairly straight on, so it's not too complicated. But again, just keep things lined up. Like the eyes should be level. The nose and the mouth are on top of each other and not misaligned. And like you can break all these rules, but you kind of have to do it knowingly. Otherwise, it kind of just looks like you don't know what you're doing. Kind of do it with like a nod and a wink kind of thing. Oh, another little trick for drawing the trapezius and kind of the front of the chest, or the back of the chest, which would be the back, I guess, is I often just draw a rectangle for the neck and then just do a triangle, and that kind of gives you the line of kind of where the clavicle would be and where the shoulders kind of start to turn into the arms, like almost to the point where the pectoralis turns inward into your armpit. Sorry for the noise. And that triangle trick is kind of great for giving a sense of foreshortening too, because it means you could really easily have the rest of the body be underneath that triangle, as if the chest is kind of at the top and kind of pointed up, and it's overlapping all the forms below it. It's just a really easy shorthand for that. Although I think in this case I just didn't draw the rest of the body, so what are you gonna do? I think I decided to draw a single person with clothes here, so I think that's what's going on. I'm trying to add a shirt. Kind of almost like a poncho, really. Another little face window. Alright, here's where things get more experimental, I think. I used to draw quite a bit with, I think everyone does when they start out drawing with these micron fine liners, because you're like, I want a nice refined line, and I'm very sophisticated in my first year of art school or Thai school or whatever. But really, they're not a great drawing tool, because it really is a binary of on-off. Like, you either have a line or you don't, and there's not much variation in the line, because you can't change it with pressure sensitivity like you can with a brush pen or a pencil crayon or a pencil. I think I smudged it because I did not like that drawing. These things happen. But yeah, like I said, if you're just starting out with drawing, I really recommend just drawing with a pencil or a pencil crayon, or just something cheap and something that can give you some line variation. A brush pen is good too, but can be very frustrating to. I certainly remember it was very frustrating for me learning to draw with a brush. Now, of course, I'm kind of out of practice because I don't draw with a brush as much these days, but I think we do okay in the end here. Yeah, I've always been really impressed by those Kim Jong-ji, Kim Jong-ji, Kim Jong-ji, Kim Jong-ji. Anyway, those videos of the perspective guy, where he draws in someone's sketchbook or on a black piece of paper and just does like a perfect silhouette drawing like this, but much better. So I think when I used to really be into drawing with a brush pen, that's the sort of thing I was kind of emulating. So I think here I was trying to see if I could still do it, and maybe do some more practice on that one. I think this is the point where I'm like, this face is not so good. So I just, just smudge it out. I think that this whole thing that is happening right now, where I've drawn a drawing, I'm not incredibly happy with it. And I'm kind of just smudging over it with like more dry brush. This really illustrates why brush pen is good to learn with, especially if you're really interested in linear kind of line art drawing. Because unlike a pencil crayon where you can kind of rough it out in light pencil, it's really on off, right? You either put down a line or you don't. So it really makes you consider the positive space of what you're drawing and using the brush pen to almost as if you're just underlining a form that already exists. So it can be a really valuable and frustrating tool to draw with a brush pen. I really recommend it. It sucks, but I recommend it. I think I just came in with some, I think it might be water soluble ink in just a watercolor refillable brush. And here's some more. I think this is actually some kind of acrylic ink. So we're layering different media on top of each other here. And again, a yellow over blue makes a green. This sort of mixed media approach can be really interesting. Often it's kind of a mixed bag whether or not it works out or not, but it's good to try, especially in your sketchbook, the place where, in my opinion, you should be trying new things and trying to push what you can do with media and what media you're comfortable with. So yeah, it's a good experiment. So now I'm just coming in with an acrylic paint marker. I think this is like a Sharpie brand one. I think it didn't cost very much. And just coming back in and redoing the profile of the face. I think it's a bit better for sure. These are actually fairly nice to draw with, surprisingly so. So now, because I've smudged all that ink around, it almost has a feeling of being light and shadow, like the head is in shadow. I mean, not quite, because we've got all these kind of textural things happening, and there's a lot of yellow and dark blue, so, you know, it doesn't quite work on that level, but you could do something like that. Another reason I really recommend keeping a sketchbook is I know a lot of draw on loose pieces of paper because there's less pressure that, you know, it's your precious sketchbook or something that you can't screw up. But for me, it's just like, I don't need another piece of clutter in my life floating around the room. So to have all these drawings, or just to have a big tome sketchbook like this that I can kind of just go into, and that's where all my drawings are. It's really useful. And this is a different marker. Can't really remember what type. It's fairly old. But it does have a nice line quality to it, actually. You'll see in a minute. I think I tried to bring it in over the ink, but just no way. It's kind of more of a light marker. It's not really gonna show up on top of like layers of acrylic ink. Oh, but apparently I give it a shot anyway. I think this is the final page. There's my 2.2 system. Patented. Oh, 2.1 line system. My mistake. Some very questionable hair happening here again. Hey, I'm learning over here. Really gave this guy a turtle-like quality. And here, I don't know if I finish it, but it's basically the same triangle chest thing happening. Now here's in my opinion, a pretty good silhouette for the face. It reminds me of RoboCop when they take the RoboCop helmet off RoboCop. And he's just kind of got like the front of his head. But yeah, everything's defined, like the forehead, the nose, the lips, the chin, the neck. It's not bad hair. What's great about this pen is you can really get some fast, swooping lines. It's the technical term. Ooh, and I decided clothes. That's how you draw. You put clothes on them. Yeah, here's some fast lines. Just drawing the face shape. There's the nose. There's the mouth. A little bit of sign that there's some overlap. And there's the eyelids. Bam. And that's the face. I think if I was to correct this, I would actually move that right eye and angle it a bit more to be in perspective with the mouth. Because the eye kind of has a front forward perspective at the moment, but it's fun and loose. And that's a sketchbook video. Hope you enjoyed it. Remember to keep a sketchbook and, don't stress out. Just have fun.
Like, share, subscribe.